Today on Airborne, Hawker Beechcraft unveils its plan for exiting bankruptcy, and it may surprise you. Cessna reports mixed results in its third quarter report, and Randy Babbitt lands a new job with Southwest Airlines. I'm Ashley Hale. Welcome to Airborne on Aero-TV. Well, the fat lady has far from sung for Hawker Beechcraft, as ANN has learned that when Hawker Beechcraft emerges from Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, it will do so as a standalone company. After a short and mysterious engagement with Superior Aviation Beijing Co Limited, looks like the wedding is off. In a news release Thursday, Hawker Beechcraft said it is no longer pursuing a transaction with Superior because the parties could not reach an agreement on the terms of a planned sponsorship agreement. When the company comes out of Chapter 11, the plan is to rename itself Beechcraft Corporation and implement a business plan that focuses on its turboprop, piston, special mission, and trainer attack aircraft, what the company says are its most profitable products, and on its high-margin parts, maintenance, repairs, and refurbishment businesses, all of which have high growth potential. It looks like times are still tough in Wichita. In a conference call with analysts Wednesday, Cessna executives said that orders were very light in July and August, but a bit stronger in September. The result was higher revenue for the quarter, but the bottom line took a hit. The Wichita Eagle reports that Cessna's revenues were up to $7 million to $778 million, but the profit shrank to $30 million when compared to a year ago, down $3 million. RBC Capital Market analyst Robert Stallard wrote in his report that third quarter revenue for Cessna was, quote, considerably lower than we had expected, end quote. Cessna said in its quarterly earnings report Wednesday that the revenue increase is largely due to a boost in used aircraft sales, which offsets a drop in the deliveries of new biz jets. Textron chairman and CEO Scott Donnelly said one bright spot is that order cancellations continue to decline. NATA had high hopes that President Barack Obama and GOP nominee Governor Mitt Romney would come out in support of general aviation as a source of jobs and economic development when they debated Tuesday night. But neither candidate made any reference to the industry. However, on the bright side, we didn't hear the president bash business aviation anymore. NATA president and CEO Thomas Hendricks had issued a call for both candidates to recognize the value aviation brings to the economy, accounting for more than 1.3 million jobs and contributing more than $150 billion to the U.S. economy. President Obama took another swipe at corporate jets during the first debate, but the topic did not come up in the second face-off. With the final debate focusing on foreign policy, the business jet issue may have had its final mention in this part of the campaign. Well, Randy Babbitt lives on. Southwest Airlines has a new senior vice president of labor relations, and the name is a familiar one. You guessed it, former FAA Administrator Randy Babbitt, and he will direct and oversee the carrier's labor-related activities. Babbitt will report directly to Chief Operating Officer Mike Vandeven and have responsibility for all negotiation, communication, and ongoing relationships between the company and the 11 organizations that represent 87% of Southwest employees. Mike Ryan, Southwest Vice President of Labor Relations and Labor Relations team, will report to Babbitt. Babbitt is no stranger to labor issues in the airline industry, having flown 25 years for Eastern Airlines and serving as president and CEO for U.S. ALPA back in the day. You're watching Airborne, more in a moment.
Since the early days of powered flight, pilots have struggled with landing in crosswinds and learning proper crosswind landing techniques. Even today, most crosswind landing skills are learned through trial and error, sometimes with disastrous results. Believe it or not, the most common contributing factor in weather-related accidents each year is crosswinds. The second most common factor is wind gusts. In fact, crosswinds and wind gusts cause more landing accidents than fog, thunderstorms, and icing combined. That's where the Redbird X-Wind SE comes in. It teaches pilots the proper techniques to meet and beat these top two causes of weather-related landing accidents. By placing pilots in gusty crosswind conditions for extended periods of time, the X-Wind SE gives instructors all the time they need to teach the pilot the proper techniques for landing in challenging crosswind conditions. For more information on Redbird flight simulations, the Redbird X-Wind SE, and Redbird's entire line of flight training devices, visit www.redbirdflightsimulations.com.
Welcome back. If you'd like to suggest a story for Airborne Aero TV, our website or podcast, send us an email to news-spy@aero-news.net. ANN was informed earlier this week that Monte R. Mitchell, former president of AEA and a legend in the avionics industry, passed away October 16, 2012, in Lee Summit, Missouri, at the age of 83, following a brief illness. Mitchell served nearly 40 years in the general aviation industry. He was born February 6, 1929, in Quincy, Missouri. Mitchell was recruited for the position of executive director of the AEA in 1977. During his tenure as AEA president, Mitchell tripled the membership size and introduced new programs and services to the members, including the EE Direct Equipment Exchange Program and the annual AEA Rate and Labor Survey. And he quadrupled the size of the association's monthly magazine, Avionics News. He was also largely responsible for expanding the organization worldwide. A true class act, Mitchell will be missed by many in the avionics industry who knew how pivotal his efforts were to that industry. Drew Gryder of Hampton, Georgia, spent his 16th birthday soloing in 3 different types of airplanes: a Cessna 150, a glider, and a light twin, with the Cessna solo taking place in the dark. The Cessna flight came at a minute after midnight on his 16th birthday, accompanied by his father, Dan Gryder, and family friend Scotty Collins in a 3-ship formation. Later, he flew solo in a Blahnik K-7 glider, as well as a Piper twin-engine aircraft. Drew said of his accomplishment, "I wanted to show other kids that age 14 and 15 is not too young to start, and that they can also fly. To other kids my age, I would say to stay in school, get good grades, and work hard on whatever career they are interested in. Aviation is a rewarding career, the pilot shortage is here, and it just might as well be us that would fit those cockpit seats." Score another win for Bell Helicopter. A 3-judge panel in France recently ruled that the Bell 429 production skid gear does not infringe Eurocopter's French landing skid gear patent. All Bell 429s have been and will continue to be delivered with the current production gear. In finding for Bell, the French court dismissed the claims against Bell Helicopter. The court also ordered Eurocopter to pay the cost of the proceedings and to pay BHTI and Bell Canada each the sum of €65,000, or about $85,200 in cost. It's time for this week's Barnstorming commentary. This time, ANN's Jim Campbell talks about his recent trip to the 2012 AOPA Summit.
Well, folks, very interesting week. But then again, it's been a series of very interesting weeks here at ANN HQ. Last week, I got out of the office for a little bit, went and saw some friends at SpaceX who are celebrating an amazing triumph in orbit. Of course, watched Endeavour go into retirement, which to me is still a very shameful thing. And, God help me, I went to the AOPA Summit. Well, to make a long story short, rather than some of the negatives that I kind of expected, because we did throw some pretty big rocks in regards to problems we saw at AOPA. Instead of the negativity I expected to encounter, I instead found myself enduring a series of handshakes, high fives, and attaboys for doing the story that everybody frankly expected of us and doesn't seem to expect from anybody else. And I find that disappointing and exhilarating for different reasons. I'm glad that people respond to it. The question is, what do we do with it now? I sat through an initial AOPA presentation, a meeting in the opening ceremony, I should say. Some 90 minutes. They spent the better part of the first hour talking about their vacations overseas and put a number of people to sleep and put a number of people off. Then spent quite a few minutes congratulating these new strategic partners from whom they've apparently gotten several $100,000 for AOPA pursuits. And then finally wound up with something that was worthwhile, an amazing presentation with a young man, a Marine who was injured overseas, and his having soloed as a function of working with Able Flight. But the problem is this: there were some interesting things to see, but at no point did AOPA seem interested in wanting to talk about the elephant in the room. To them, it simply didn't exist. We have some questions. They won't answer them. I'll give you an example of where I sit with this. A couple of days ago, we asked Katie Pribble, the new communications director at AOPA, for some advance information that will be made public in a few days, but only after the AOPA Summit for their next IRS Form 990s. This is a form they filed months ago and will have to be made available here in just a few days. The problem is they don't want to talk to me. They don't want to disclose it, even though it's all part of public record by now. It's just a matter of wending its way through a process. Asked the same questions of EAA, and the basic answer was, don't have all that right now, but I'll get as much to you as I can right away. And I'll be darned, they did. Number of other organizations, same way. What's going on at AOPA? What do they have to hide? What's happening here? There needs to be an open discourse. There needs to be a dialogue. Serious questions have been asked. Nobody's answering. If AOPA is going to provide guidance and leadership for the future, they need to be accountable. They need to be transparent. They need to be open. They need to be on target. And they need to be accountable to us. And so far, they're having none of it. Folks, time for a change. And the change is either in the mission of AOPA or in its leadership. It's up to you collectively to tell them which you think it needs to be. We'll see. For the Aero-News Network, Aero-TV, and of course Airborne, I'm Jim Campbell, raising a ruckus as usual. And if you see me out there in the field, be sure to duck. I've got all kinds of things going on around me. Take care.
Finally, today on Airborne, it's true, there really is buried treasure out there. Nearly 70 years ago, British forces buried dozens of Spitfire aircraft in Burma to keep them out of the hands of the invading Japanese forces. The aircraft, properly crated and preserved, have lain hidden underground in Burma ever since. Now, British aviation enthusiast David J. Kundal has uncovered their location after 16 years of searching for the aircraft, and a deal has been struck between the British and Burmese governments to allow them to be unearthed and brought home. And it's not just a few. There are an estimated 60 of the iconic fighters in the ground in Burma, according to a report appearing on Fox News. A British embassy spokesman said it is hoped that at least some of the aircraft will be able to be restored to flying condition. The recovery effort is expected to get underway at the end of this month. ANN has great hopes that many of these aircraft will find their way back to flight status, where they can be seen, heard, and enjoyed for decades to come. Well, that's our program for Friday, October 19th. Quick, concise, and convenient, you're always up to date when you're airborne with Aero TV. I'm Ashley Hale, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next Tuesday with another edition of Airborne.